Music streaming is an area of the music industry that everyone has an opinion on.
Streaming just doesn't pay us.
Superstar Taylor Swift abruptly pulling all of her albums from the streaming service Spotify.
Something called Napster, and we were like, well, if they're fuck with us, we'll fuck with them.
If the media and musicians are to be believed, then it's the #1 cause for the death of the entire music industry. It kills new talent, destroyed the value of music, and is literally the worst thing to happen ever. How can musicians expect to survive when their art, their music, no longer makes them millions upon millions of dollars, and there are absolutely clearly no other revenue sources available, because that is clearly the only revenue source available for music? Independent record labels can't survive anymore, major labels taking unsolicited money from streaming companies to cover digital breakage, and new bands have to tour endlessly just to make enough money for a Tesco meal deal. It's a hard world out there. So what if I was to tell you that streaming, in fact, isn't the worst thing ever? What if I was to tell you that there is money in streaming and it's actually one of the best things that's ever happened to the industry? Well, give me some time. However long this video ends up being, give me that amount of time to explain why streaming has improved the industry and why it's actually a really, really good thing. In order to deep dive into this topic, let's first look at where, when, and why streaming started, how it started, basically the history of how we got to where we are, because that will give us a good foundation to talk about this in depth. The origin of music streaming came around when Napster was founded by Sean Fanning and Sean Parker. It was a peer-to-peer file sharing service similar to LimeWire. At the time there were networks that allowed file sharing, however Napster specialised in MP3 files and had a user interface that was much easier to use. At its peak it had over 80 million users. The downfall of Napster came about when metal band and counterculture icons at the time, Metallica, found out that a demo of their song I Disappear had been circulating Napster before the track had been released. This led them to find that their entire back catalogue of songs was also available on the service without their permission. Metallica filed a lawsuit claiming copyright infringements, unlawful use of digital audio interface device, and violations of the Racketeering, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. They wanted $100,000 per copyright violation. Lars, Metallica's drummer, when questioned about the lawsuit, is quoted as saying, "With each project we go through a grueling creative process to achieve music that we feel is representative of Metallica at that very moment in our lives. We take our craft, whether it be the music, the lyrics, or the photos and artwork, very seriously, as do most musicians. It is therefore sickening to know that our art is being traded like a commodity rather than the art that it is." In order to bolster their case against Napster, they tracked down over 300,000 usernames of people that they had alleged downloaded their music illegally, and then asked Napster to block them on the service. Napster complied, blocking all of these users with a notification that read, "Blocked by Metallica." This caused the entire lawsuit to no longer be seen as a band defending its copyright, but rather a corporate band greedy for money, taking music away from their fans. Wayne Chang, who manages Napster's bulletin boards at the time, said, "Some artists are in it for the pure art of music, others are in it for money. Metallica just showed us which side of the line they are on." Regardless of who's right or wrong in this situation, Metallica's image had now gone from counterculture metal icons to a greedy corporate business, just trying to get all of the money they can out of their fans and not allowing them the freedom to listen to their music. The lawsuit also caused many musicians and artists to come out in favour of the service, including Limp Bizkit and The Offspring. Because everyone cares what Fred Durst has to say about business matters. Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue came out against Metallica, stating, "Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, and I think Metallica's hogs. They make enough of t-shirts and concert events and other forms of corporation. I think that it's not acceptable behaviour for an artist to do that to their fans. A lecture at Metallica's management. They're puppeteering the guys in Metallica and they're fucking their fans, and I think it's fucked." I appreciate how that statement started off kind of like metaphorical and just turned into they're fucked. Both Dr. Dre and Madonna also entered into battles with Napster by either filing lawsuits or threatening legal action against the file sharing service. Dr. Dre was also involved with Metallica when they were sending all of those names to Napster to get banned. Both artists shared the same litigator and legal firm. On the other side though, there have also been arguments made that Napster helped artists that have never had #1s before reach that #1 spot in the charts. Radiohead's album Kid A found its way onto Napster 3 months before the record was released, and unlike Madonna, Dr. Dre and Metallica, they had never hit the top 20 US charts. There were also no single releases or radio play from the Kid A album, yet it's found itself as the #1 selling record in its debut week. According to Richard Mentor of MP3 Newswire, Napster was a good promotional tool for the music. To me at least, this suggests a strong narrative of the consumer taking back power from the big corporate major labels that were dominating the music industry at the time. Napster settled with all of the artists that had lawsuits against them, and Lars was apparently satisfied with the outcome, although Metallica's image was damaged far beyond repair, so was it really worth it? In July 2001, the service was shut down for what was supposed to be a temporary amount of time. However, it never came back around, and Napster filed for bankruptcy and liquidated its assets in 2002. It was then in 2006 when Spotify was developed by Team Spotify AB in Stockholm, Sweden. The service was launched in October 2008 with subscriptions being publicly available and free accounts available by invitation in order to manage the amount of traffic the service and application would receive. Little fun fact, I was part of the first wave of free users that got onto the service when it first launched back in the UK. At the same time though, Spotify started announcing deals with major labels. This is how Spotify managed to get around the issues that Napster kept running into. Rather than sharing files with other people, you instead listen to all the music within the application itself, and this prevents anything illegal happening, any copyright being violated, because you can't really make copies of it and you listen to it within the application of which it is licensed to. This meant that Spotify could get licensing deals with all of the major labels and have all their music up there, and anyone can listen to it for free as long as they put up with the advertising. It's perfectly the basic middle ground between Napster and iTunes. It also killed any point in pirating music, which no one ever mentions and I think should be mentioned more. Why go through a risk of stealing music and maybe getting a weird .exe file and crashing your entire computer where you can just sign up to a free account on Spotify and listen to an advert every 15 minutes. Spotify continued its rollout of services to countries across the world and is now a global company, with the application being available in 65 markets across the world. It's so big now that I'm surprised when I meet people and they don't have Spotify accounts. It's kind of like Facebook in that aspect. If you don't have Spotify, what are you doing with your life? As stated, Spotify has 2 tiers of membership to the service, that being paid and free. The paid version gives you access to all of the music on there, the ability to download the music in apps, say if you're driving in your car and you don't have a good internet connection, you can download it to the app on your phone, listen in your car, that sort of thing. And obviously, advertisement free, you just get full streaming all the time. The free service is an advertiser-based business model where you can also listen to whatever music you want, however you'll be interrupted with adverts. You can also only listen to your own personal playlists in shuffle mode when on your phone, which is a genius idea for a freemium advertising-based model, because if you're driving and you've got that one song you want to listen to, or you're used to the way an album plays, if it then plays it in shuffle, that's incredibly irritating, and it convinced me to buy premium, honestly. I wanted to listen to certain songs at certain times, so I got the paid version, and now I'm 4 years later. Spotify has also spawned competing music services such as Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, and so on. Each service has its own spin as to what it can offer the consumer and artists, though Spotify is still seen as the king of streaming. Or should we say queen? The service has not been without its criticisms though, evidenced by this video even existing. The main issue is the belief that Spotify doesn't pay enough to artists for how much their music is played and worth. Before streaming, places like iTunes would pay labels a majority share of the money per download. The label would then pay the artist a share of that income after their advance had been paid off. Spotify, however, pays royalties based on the market's artist share and the number of streams of their songs as proportion to the total songs streamed on the service. So, there it is, that's your history lesson over on how we've got to this new age of music consumption. So, now I think it's time to divide some opinions, and let's start with the thing that musicians claim they don't care about, but really probably do care about the most, otherwise they wouldn't hate Spotify, and that is money. As discussed, before streaming there were 2 primary ways of consuming music. Buying it, whether physical CD, download, vinyl, etc., or radio. You could also watch like a music channel on the TV, but that's more video consumption rather than music, so I'm not going to count that in this video. This means that artists emerged from that time value their music against what it was sold for at that time, this being around £9.99 for an album or 99p per download as a rough estimate. This system is based around a buy-to-own business model where you purchase a track and then you own a license to listen to that track freely whenever you want. You can't make a copy of it and upload that copy to Napster because that infringes copyright. You buying a song doesn't legally give you the right to give that song to somebody else. They have to legally buy it themselves. You believe the worth of a song is 99p and then you are believing that anyone listening to that song should be paying 99p the right to listen to it per listen. You're obviously going to be very upset when a single play of your song doesn't get 99p and instead gets 0.002317000000 per play. That's less than a penny or a cent. And that's also the actual money that I got from one play from one of my songs on Spotify. Before we get upset about a single stream not having the same monetary worth as a download, let's first dissect as to why a stream these days isn't worth even a penny. Spotify works on a market share royalty payout business model. Whereas it used to be you got paid a percentage of the money gained from purchasing the music, this old system results in your music not mattering how good or bad it is, because someone could buy it once, listen to it once, hate it once, and never listen again. Nowadays though, if your music isn't good, it won't get played repeatedly and it won't make any money. The market share model actively rewards artists that are genuinely popular and being played more than others, since the amount you make is subject to percentage your music is played in comparison to everyone else on the platform. If your music generates 1% of total income made on the entire platform, you will get paid 1% of the total income that was generated from the entire platform. I will forever argue that this system is so much better than the old system we used to have on every single level. I've read that people are saying that this kills new artists because they don't get paid their worth, so how can they then make a career out of music? No, this empowers literally anyone with talent and passion for music to make music and make a career out of it without having to jump through any of those arbitrary hoops that you had to jump through when trying to get signed to a major label or something like that from the past. It used to be that if you wanted to make it big, you'd need a manager, an agent, a label, a distributor, and so on. Nowadays you need a laptop and 20 quid for DistroKid. It doesn't surprise me that bands like Metallica aren't fans of this service because they haven't been good since 1991. It means that their place at the top is no longer guarded by arbitrary barriers that prevent young talent coming up and taking them off. Now anyone can get to the top. One reason why massive bands like Metallica should love this system is that their older records are now generating income again. I guarantee you that most people that own the Black Album also nowadays own Spotify, and they are streaming that record on the service rather than the CD, which makes Metallica money. This brings me on to my second point as to why streaming is better. Yeah, you get less money per stream than a download. The difference is though, you keep getting that money and over time it adds up. Downloads by nature have a finite amount of money they can make. Streaming has basically infinite money that can slowly funnel into the artist's pockets, which will eventually eclipse how much a download would have made. This encourages creativity and puts artists into a position where making good music is what gets you famous, not just pumping out album after album after album of trash because you're a proven act and people will buy it anyway because they've not got anything else on offer to get. Continuing my earlier thought train about big artists on major labels complaining about there being no money in streaming, how would you then feel if I told you that major labels keep 73% of all money made from premium Spotify subscribers? French recorded music trade body SNEP ran a study in order to find out where the money from these streaming services go to. They found out that labels pay their artists 11% of the money made from streaming. Spotify has also confirmed that it pays labels, not artists. So it's not Spotify not paying artists. Let me reiterate this. If you're an artist that believes that streaming isn't paying you any money, then I'm afraid you're wrong. It's not Spotify that's not paying you, it's your label that's not paying you. How did this happen? Why does Taylor Swift hate music streaming because she's not making enough money from it? Well, contracts with the labels, basically. It always comes down to contracts on this channel. Most artists that signed contracts with major labels before streaming was a thing didn't have the revenue made from streaming written into their contracts. Therefore, when streaming came about, the labels didn't legally have to pay them anything from streaming as they were only contracted to pay them for downloads. And then all of this led to the stigma that streaming has no money in it when it really, really does. It might not have the same value as a single download does per stream. Does not mean there isn't money in it. And also, does listening to a song once really equate to the value of someone purchasing your music? They just started mowing the lawn, sorry if you can hear that. Is that really a fair expectation to have of your fan base and of your music? Do you really think that your music is so special and that the pure fact that your artistry touched somebody's ears for 3 minutes, do you really think that means that you should get paid the same as someone going out of their way and spending their hard-earned money on you? If you do believe that, can you please get in touch, because I need your level of self-confidence in my life. If it was true that there was no money in streaming, why would Taylor Swift, after pulling all her music off the service and then putting it back on, make any sense, unless there were some behind the scenes things where she took her money from the service so she could use that to renegotiate her contract with her label in order to start getting the money from the service? Because we know that all Taylor Swift gives a crap about is money, that she pulls her stuff from things to get money. She did that. She rallies against YouTube all the time to get money. I obviously have no evidence that she went into negotiations about her contract to get her money back, but doesn't that seem odd? So back to the question. How much is your music worth? Well, that's going to depend on who you are and how you value music to yourself and what you see music as an artist and as a consumer. From a business mindset, which I personally have, music is not much more than an advertisement for something else you are selling. I don't view music as a product. I view it as the means to sell a t-shirt. Whereas if you're an artist that views music as a product and as the start and end of everything an artist is, you're obviously going to value it a lot higher than I do. I also believe that if your music is good and if it connects with people, people will then give you money in other ways. For example, with me, my favourite band is While She Sleeps, and I've immediately pre-ordered their new album and a shirt just because I really support and like the way they do their business and them as a band. If it wasn't for streaming, I would never have done that because I would never have found out about them. As soon as you start taking advantage of how much your fan base are willing to put into you as an artist by selling them other things, you will realise that music actually generates a lot more money even though it isn't the product itself. And you would also then see that music streaming is what facilitates this type of business model. Streaming killed piracy. I'm making this a whole section of the video because it doesn't get mentioned enough. Streaming absolutely killed piracy. Would you prefer to get little money or no money? If you'd like to get a little bit of money, you should like streaming because it stops you getting no money. Spotify absolutely destroyed any point of downloading any dodgy files from the internet, and you should be appreciative of that if you're trying to get people to listen to your music. Anyway, that's a whole section. I wanted to make that point. Don't get talked about now. Now, I've spent a long time defending streaming, so I think it's time. We go on the offensive and we explain why streaming has been a cultural diuretic and why it's actually made the industry just such a better place to exist in as a musician. As detailed in my last editorial, Spotify and streaming have allowed music to thrive within an ecosystem that actively rewards niched music. I went into this more in depth in the other video, so if you want more in depth on that specific topic, go watch that video after this video. Before streaming existed, big bands were able to dominate the market since consumers are often sold whatever sold before, since retailers and sellers want security and to make money. This means it's much harder for bands to break through the arbitrary barriers put in front of them for simply not being a proven act. Streaming fixes all of this and allows the consumer to just choose exactly what they want to listen to, and that also gives artists the ability to make whatever they want and find an audience for that. Young and new artists that complain about their album getting 1,000 plays and only getting $2 from that just confuses the hell out of me. If streaming didn't exist, they'd be getting no plays and no dollars. The fact that a band that pulls 2 people to a local show can then have 1,000 plays in a different part of the world is enough evidence for me to say streaming's a godsend. There is now a fan base for every type of genre you could want to release, and consumers have been empowered to decide for themselves what they want to listen to. This has 2 effects that are beneficial to artists. It creates markets for unique subcultures and gives you the chance to create music for those genres and still make money and grow as an artist. It also changes the game of creating safe records that sell on name value to creating new and interesting records that capture people's imaginations. It now pays to be a skilled songwriter rather than a one-hit wonder that continue to get by off name value. All of this makes a music industry that I want to live in rather than the one we used to have. The freedom of choice, the power to create what you want, the chances for new artists to carve out their own path, the slow death of mainstream music culture, the power back in the hands of consumers, and the celebration of the unique. This is a music industry that I want to be a part of. Not one that blames someone else because it's not the way it used to be. Not one that promotes mediocrity, and certainly not one that punishes fans for enjoying an artist's music. So, back to the question. Is streaming killing the music industry? No. It saved it. Thank you so much for watching that video. You may be questioning the tie. This was kind of a smart, SAE, educationally kind of video, so I wore a tie because I don't know, it just sort of happened. Thank you for watching this. Let me know what you think of the current state of the music industry down below, and subscribe for more stuff. I do reviews, I do stuff like this when I can because they take a long time to do. But anyway, subscribe for more stuff, and I hope to see you in the next video.